Thank you. As you're all regulars, you know that the meeting is being recorded and will be posted online in the near future. Is there any reason to go into executive session? Okay. Before getting to the minutes, do we want to add CYS administrator to the agenda to talk about today?
I'm fine with it if everybody else is.
Commissioner Morrison?
Yeah, I'll second it.
That's fine. Okay. Everybody's agreeing with that. We'll go ahead. Did you have a chance to review the meeting minutes from March 26th?
Yes.
Meet with your approval. Any corrections? I'd entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Why don't we go ahead and take the CYS thing first then. Everyone's aware of this, but I guess more or less for record. Children and Youth Services reports directly to the commissioners, but in the past has been through the Human Services Director. Despite the fact that we are joined with Forest County for Human Services, but not CYS. And the Director of Human Services reports to the Jointer Board. Furthermore, funding sources are also divided between CYS and Human Services, generally speaking. So we are, because Mary Kushner retired and we have been reevaluating how things are done, one thing that we had talked about doing was bifurcating the position of Human Services Director to only oversee Human Services, not CYS. So that means that whereas before there was one fairly decently paid unified command, if you would, now there would be two directors, one for Human Services, one for CYS. Right now, the highest ranking position with CYS is Meredith Ketchum, and she is Assistant Administrator 1. So my recommendation is at this time would be to go ahead and approve a new position, simultaneously eliminating the Assistant Administrator 1 and instead making her Children and Youth Administrator 3 per the document that Keith sent over this morning. I have not had a chance to look over it, so maybe we could take a moment just to skim through it.
So this is a new job description. Okay, so she's an Assistant Admin 1, right? Currently?
Correct. But remind me of this 1, 2, and 3.
She actually, if you look at her email, she uses the director title. She doesn't call herself an administrator.
Right. But what's the 1, 2, 3 classification? Which way does it go?
One's the lowest.
Interesting.
Is there anything higher than 3?
No.
I think it's just a matter of like the regulations by the state to create the job descriptions. Like the state regulates what the job descriptions are.
I believe it came from when they were civil service.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of get much as macros when they went to merit-based pay, my understanding.
Okay. So the range that's proposed on here barely covers what the current acting director makes. I guess, so first of all, to be clear, my recommendation here today would be that we create a new position called Children and Youth Administrator 3, and that the commissioners appoint Meredith Mayor Ketchum, who is de facto doing the job and has been, or at least doing 94% of the job for how many years?
2000, I just looked in 2002.
Oh, wow, that long? I don't think she's been.
No, I think it was
Maybe
only
it was
11.
12, that
Maybe
sounds
it's not
about
12.
likely. Okay.
Sorry, I
It's
did
been like 6 or 8 years, something
Yeah.
like that.
And my recommendation on that salary would actually be a touch higher than the range that's presented here, which is 39,000 to 55. Since it's barely more than what she's currently making, she would presumably be taking on more responsibility as the full-on director. We did an analysis at Commissioner Morrison's request through Nancy Hess. Her recommendation was, I believe, 52 to 62.
Sounds right.
So
Somewhere-
it's somewhere in
right
that
around
range. So my recommendation would be just an even 58,000, split the difference. And then the commissioners could appoint Meredith as the official, I mean, she's already acting de facto director, so just actually make her the director at our next public meeting when it's ratified. Now, the next question though would be, if you all are on board with that so far, does this take effect July 1st, or does this take effect immediately?
Yeah, I would say immediately, pending her acceptance of the proposal.
I would agree.
Okay.
Just because we want to get this moving forward, and frankly, she's going to be receiving essentially what would have been a portion of the pay of the director of the entire agency. So even with this increase, the county would still be seeing savings overall.
Right. Oh, certainly. It's the whole change here, no matter what we do, is going to be saving the county money.
Yep. And my only other thing is that I'm pretty sure that essentially Meredith would have to submit some kind of information to the state for approval in the position. So I think it would, if that is the case, I'm not 100% sure. My assumption is that's the case. That if that is the case, then this would be effective upon that approval, or the knowledge of that approval.
Keith, is there an easy day to make this effective?
Per Eric, not in the middle of a pay, it's beginning of whatever pay.
So this week is a pay, correct?
So next Monday?
So next month,
Next
yeah,
month.
the 30th, April 30th. Okay.
Think you get the response from the state that quick?
I'm doubting the approval of the state's necessary because she's
I
already
don't
acting
believe
in
so,
the
because there is
position. But I
a
could be
position,
wrong.
you know, Forrest already has it.
Right.
So
Oh, yeah,
I don't
everyone else has.
think-
No, I don't think it's necessarily the creation of the position, it's the approval of the candidate in that position, that they're satisfactorily credentialed in order to do it.
Right.
We may not need it, I'm just saying that there's a possibility of that, so my point is whatever motion we would make would be April 30th pending the approval of the state and any other regulatory, and the approval of the person we're offering it to. That's it.
Right.
Well, she has the 5 years progressively responsible experience and she has the bachelor's degree, so.
Yeah, there's no doubt that
So-
she does qualify. I mean,
Right.
it's just,
I
I know we have to dot our i's and cross our t's. I'm not saying not do it.
I'm not saying, again, I have no doubt that she'll get it, I'm just saying that if we have to wait for her to officially be in it, we may not have to
If
wait
it's
at all.
approved this morning, I will, as soon as this meeting's over, I will go up and talk to her.
So do we know, prior to being in this classification since 2012, was she with?
No, she was hired into that
hired
position.
into- Okay.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yeah, I guess I'd be looking for a motion to create CYS Administrator 3 position at a salary of $58,000 effective April 30th. Non-union position plus benefits, and I presume the benefits would be the same benefits she.
Yes.
So moved.
A second.
Any further discussion?
So in effect, this is basically like an appointment
I think
of this
so.
person. Okay.
Yeah, obviously it would go through the normal ratification process, so at our next public work session, or excuse me, our next public meeting, her name would be listed as a promotion.
Okay.
Everyone else clear? All right, all those in favor, please state aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next item of business is bonuses for the acting administrators. As your packet indicates, at our last governing board meeting, the 6 commissioners decided to give Ronna Tipton a $1,500 bonus and $750 bonus to Betsy Miller. This is because they are acting as the Director of Human Services together. And so basically, loosely what we did in an executive session at that meeting was the board said, well, let's take what salary we ultimately want the director to be making, divided out by the number of weeks or months or whatever that we expect the employee to be working in that capacity, and take the margin from what they're currently making. And then we cut that in half for Betsy. And it's all very confusing and mostly irrelevant. So anyway, we passed it through that, and then just to make it official through our salary board, since that is where bonuses and such should be officially made, we're bringing it to this board. Now, there's been some email discussion back and forth because I spoke with Betsy and Ronna, and Ronna seemed sufficiently satisfied with that bonus, but it became apparent that Betsy did not feel.
That's something that we should be discussed, like in an executive session.
Well, no, because it leads up to what I'm about to say.
Well, I know, but like we shouldn't be discussing that publicly, like her feelings towards that is my point.
It's my impression, so I think it's fine. It's
Okay.
not, I don't see how it could really be exempt. It has nothing to do with, I don't see how it could possibly be made exempt.
So
So,
absolutely could be exempt. And
It's
and
not-
frankly should.
I disagree, but either way, I'll skip over the unimportant part. Here's what I'm trying to get at. I don't think it's fair that and I was totally a part of this. It was my impression that she was not putting in the same kind of hours as Ronna. That apparently is not the case. They have split the job pretty much 50-50. Therefore, it's my recommendation that we give them both $1,500 increases. Now and then, I believe the board had also said another $750 at the end of the period, was it June 8th or something like that? Yes. However, I understand that that board did not vote on what I'm asking for in terms of an equal 1,500. And there is a 10% reimbursement from the county, or a match, in order to draw down that money for the bonus. Therefore, my recommendation is, what I'm asking is that the board approve $1,500 for Ronna, $1,500 for Betsy, and that the additional $75 needed comes out of my salary.
I mean, my perspective would be that's not necessary. I mean, even with these bonuses, we're still going to end up paying less than we would if we had an acting director of both agencies.
I agree, but the thing is, the governing board did not make that approval, and so I'm simply offering as a gift, I suppose, to make sure that it's coming out of my salary, that that's where it comes from. And honestly, I would much rather be giving them a more sizable increase, and here's why. The logic that we followed in order to come up with the 1,500 stands, but that would stand only if we were not bifurcating the two positions. Now, currently, they are, or at least for the last 6 weeks, they have been acting as the directors of the entire organization with the same responsibilities of the former director. Therefore, because they have been, first of all, filling their own positions, and they've been filling the position of the director, I think that they've essentially been doing 1.5 jobs, not one job. So the way we looked at it before was they're doing this different job and we're splitting the difference of the pay, and it's complicated and unhelpful. What I'm saying is that instead we should be looking at it from the perspective of Rana's doing her job as intake, whatever,
Yeah.
something, and half the job of director. Therefore, it's kind of an insignificant amount to give her just $1,500. So, at minimum, I would like to see today passage of $1,500 and $1,500, which is an additional cost of $75, because we'd be doing another 750 for Bessie. However, what I would ultimately ask is that we double it so that it's 3,000 and 3,000. And again, I am more than happy to take that amount out of my own pay. That would be $375 total.
I think that what you're offering is incredibly nice, incredibly generous, but it's a very not, I don't think it's a good precedent to set, just generally speaking. That's one piece. The second piece is I totally agree with the idea. And when this was pitched, I mean, I pitched a much larger number than was here because of the level of responsibility related to the, and also the fact that, again, even in that case, we're still going to be saving money versus what we would be paying a director to function in these roles currently. My recommendation would be we pass this, go back to the governing board, and then have another discussion about maybe changing these numbers on the second payment or supplementally, just because I think that it's too quick to just say, okay, we're just gonna, shave this off of here and move. I mean, I think that my recommendation would be to pass this with the understanding that we're gonna go back to governing board and then have a greater discussion. At the time we had the discussion about this, I feel like there was more information that we could have reviewed that would have made perhaps a more educated choice. But that said, this is still something many of the people that are in the board are comfortable with this, at least for now. I think we go back to the board and then advocate for other things. That would be my recommendation.
So I'm fine with the additional, but can I at least get the 1,500 today? And again, I could write a personal account for $75 if that's all it takes.
I'd like to weigh in.
Yep.
I'm fine with the 1,500 for both today, barring that after a discussion with governing board, if it's decided that the governing board agrees that the 750 would have been sufficient for the one employee, then she doesn't get the June payment.
Okay. That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, okay, I'm fine with that too. It's, again, my only thing is that I definitely would recommend not putting your own money into
I agree.
it. That's really not a good precedent to set, just generally. That said, the county is more than capable of managing this, and if everybody's comfortable with the 1,500 under the auspices of what Commissioner Morrison's talking about, that if the governing board find it, they don't find it appropriate, then we go back and the second part of this get changed, then I'm perfectly comfortable
Can I
with that.
ask why you feel responsible enough to put in your own funds?
Because I was the one that went out in the hall and asked them if they were willing to become the directors, and then didn't say anything about the pay, didn't follow up on it. And then I was the one that asked for it to be on the executive session for the meeting last week, and I didn't come fully prepared, so I feel like this is my fault.
Well, that's
It's everybody's fault.
commendable, but yes, and if the two individuals that are involved, they could have spoke up as well. So I don't feel that it should be solely your responsibility at this point. So,
Thank you.
welcome.
And it could cost more than $75 for fiscal to figure out how to do the transaction. That's not derogatory towards anybody in fiscal. I'm just saying, it's unusual situations can cost more time. Like, okay, how are we going to do that?
Taxes, everything, it all would get totally messed up.
Well, that's why we want separate checks, separate payments, not included in their salaries as well.
So with that in mind, I would be happy to make a motion to offer Rana and Betsy Miller each $1,500 bonuses in their effort to manage the agency in the interim while we find a new director.
I'll second that.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion?
I guess just from my point of view, not being on the governing board, and it was, I guess, done at the governing board, do you think you need their approval to do that?
I think that's a good question. It's a reasonable question. I think that what Commissioner Morrison is talking about is appropriate in the sense that if nobody can support it at the end, that's what they get, you know,
Okay.
or that's what Betsy would get.
Okay. Because you
know,
basically have new information now as far as.
because they already approved a total payment for her of $1,500. So if it comes back and they say, no, we're not doing anything else, that's it, then that's it.
Okay,
So
I'm good.
that seems reasonable.
Okay, anything else? So the motion before us is to give $1,500 bonuses to both Rana Tipton and Betsy Miller, effective the next payroll, which I believe is this week.
April 30th, isn't it?
Could be,
Yes.
I don't know, either way, next payroll, whenever that is.
The next payroll, yeah.
Well, this says,
Just-
next payroll 427 on the paper.
Okay,
Well, Monday, yeah, I guess is the
Well,
start date for her, so
yeah.
that's why I was thinking, okay.
okay,
Yeah.
April 27th.
Now,
Just let Cindy know and she'll take care of the right date.
yeah.
so I guess I do have another question in that, is there gonna be a subsequent, another bonus
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
in June.
of which will then also be 1,500 for both, as long as the governing board goes along with, to your point?
Yet to be determined.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
will,
or nothing.
right, we will bring that back to the salary board again in May.
Sometime.
If it- Okay.
Okay. What's the motion?
The motion is 1,500
For each, all right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Susan second.
Any further business?
Yeah, just real quick, Pam, I want to make sure you approved the position of Administrator 3. Did you approve Meredith?
We will be, it is my assumption that the commissioners, we may as
I
well
just
make.
don't want to make the offer and do
Well,
something
okay,
out of the
so
light.
just to go back to this really quick, my recommendation would be to talk to her immediately. The last thing I would want is somehow this to filter through.
And I'll go there right now, I just want to make sure that
Yes.
Yeah, the motion was to create the Children and Youth CYS Administrator 3 position at $5,800 with benefits effective April 30th, pending the state's approval if needed.
15,000.
Very good.
58,000, yeah.
So, and then the
She
three
said 100.
commissioners have the 1620 authority to hire Meredith to do that position.
Okay.
And I think what we're saying is we are in agreement with that.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was.
Thank you for checking.
I promise I won't say anything.
Well, I'm just, like, this building has ears, so I'm just.
Anything else to bring to the board? Then I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.